Welcome to the Physician Wealth Med podcast. It's wealth medicine for doctors. If you're a doctor and you have no time, it looks like you found us just in time. This podcast is for all doctors who would like to work on their personal wealth, but do not have traditional hours to do so because they have no time. We're here to jump into topics that will help you address your wealth both inside and outside of your practice so that you can live the life of significance you're dreaming of. You'll hear from your peers, you'll hear from industry professionals, and your host and wealth advisor, me, Kevin Sullivan. This is your time. Now let's get started with today's podcast. We are very happy today to have Dr. Davis back with us as a guest on our podcast. So welcome to Physician Wealth Med Podcast. We like to say it's wealth medicine for doctors. So we have some wealth medicine for you today. Last time we had Dr. Davis on the program, he was talking about how to protect your income and the urgency of that. Today, we're going to talk about value-based care. So I'm going to turn this right over to Dr. Davis, and he'll get started with us today. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me. It's a privilege. I wanted to share with your listeners a story of a client of mine. He was a solo practitioner, family physician, and he was reaching the age, this is about 4 years ago, he was reaching the age where one starts thinking about selling his practice. The local health systems know that, so they reached out to him and offered him about $500,000 to sell his practice. And that was a combination of ARs, capital equipment, some hand waving for goodwill, and a chart fee. But he had a sense that his practice was worth more than that. So he reached out to me because he had seen some of my content. And 6 weeks later, we had an offer on the table that he eventually took for $6 million. Wow. And the reason for the difference is because the health system valued his practice based on a fee-for-service model, whereas the eventual buyer valued it based on the value under this new payment model, value-based care. And it is this difference that offers an immense opportunity for folks to change or reallocate their capital investments, because you can now invest in yourself and in your practice and in your systems and get a great return. It's important to understand that with value-based care, 100% of the Medicare patients in the United States and most Medicaid patients in the year 2030 will be paid for under this new payment model, value-based care. And that is where the opportunity lies.
That's a great opportunity. And for the doctors that are listening to this today, this is something that you want to pay very close attention to. So can you go into a little bit more detail about what value-based care is and how does that impact like a practice valuation?
Well, value-based care is a payment model where care costs, compensation, and profit all come out of the same finite pool of money. Now, currently, we're all operating under fee-for-service, and that's basically you do something, you get paid for it. And so there really is an infinite amount of resources out there, and eventually ends at the Federal Reserve printing press, to compensate us for our actions. And that is why we have such an industrial delivery model for healthcare. We just get the patients in, we run them through the factory floor in order to extract as much value as we can. Under value-based care, the amount of resources available for any given patient's care costs is finite. So what happens is that the government makes sure that every beneficiary is attributed to a specific provider. And then they have the actuaries figure out how much money that patient or the beneficiary should cost. They use a disease burden, demographic factors, maybe some social determinants of health to come up with an amount of money called a benchmark. And then they give that benchmark to the provider and then make the provider financially responsible for the consequences of their care costs. So if the patient costs less money during that time period, those are resources for the provider to keep. If they cost more money, then the provider is on the hook for the care costs. And it is important to understand that when folks say value-based care, what they're actually referring to is something called metric-based care, which is fee-for-service with additional payments for meeting certain population-based metrics. It's called value-based care. People use that terminology incorrectly. Even ChatGPT uses it incorrectly. Yeah. It is not value-based care. It is it is metric-based care. In fee-for-service, the resources are finite. Every beneficiary is attributed to a provider, and that provider is financially responsible for their care costs. So you're going to see a lot of arrangements like Medicare Advantage, partial risk, ACOs. Those are all kind of clothes being hung on this armature of this payment model. But if you strip everything away, that is the essential of value-based care, and that is the source of your opportunity.
So is there certain doctors or professions within the medical community that would benefit more from this?
Well, under these programs, it's only physicians usually that can be an attributed provider. So it's only the physician that can accept that risk. Now, those physicians, they can offload that financial risk to their employer, to a private payer, they can self-insure, but it's the physicians themselves that have the opportunity.
Oh, very good. And specifically physicians that might own their own practices.
Well, if you're working for someone, it's going to be your employer who's going to accept the risk. It's up to them to determine how to pay you, and that's one of the places where it gets tricky.
Okay. So if you're a doctor listening on this right now, this is what you want to be considering, because this is where things are moving, correct?
Correct. 2030, 100% of Medicare, most Medicaid patients will be covered under value-based care. And I want to take a moment to emphasize that this determination was made in 2015 under the Obama administration. Trump 45 doubled down, Biden doubled down again. Trump is going to double down again next year. So this is happening. It survived all these ideological swings. So there's no denial here. 2030, that's where it's going to be.
That's 5 short years from now. What can they do to get them ready for it now? What's the next steps that doctors could do right now to say, okay, I need to get ready for this?
Well, I want you to imagine that you are a successful primary care physician under a value-based care contract, and you have 500 patients that pay you a predictable amount of revenue every month, every year. Well, that is a very different situation than if you're selling your own practice under fee-for-service. Right now, if you sell your own practice, all the health system is doing is they're giving you as little money as they can get away with to attract you. It's basically a signing bonus dressed up in all these regulatory language. But they're buying a few years of your labor and your market share. That's what they're buying. And so that's how they price it. And parenthetically, they will tell you that we can only give you so much money before running afoul of all the Stark regulations. Well, I have been doing this for decades, and I understand that that's BS. They'll pay you as much as they need to get what they want based on their value. In value-based care, you have this panel of 500 patients with predictable recurring revenue. Now, it's not going to be fixed. It varies based on performance, but it is to some degree predictable. That is a variable rate bond. That's a bond. And you can put that in the open market and you can sell it for whatever the market will bear. That is very different than what you sell under fee for service. And that's the reason why my client was able to get that particular payment, because at the time in the market, he had a certain amount of value-based care revenue, and it was priced at a multiple of ARR, and he was able to realize the value of that. And that is what we're shooting for, what we're talking about here today.
So even today, the multiples, do you have a guess as to what those multiples numerically would be, or is that specific to each practice?
Well, it fluctuates with the market. If I was buying the corner gas station, it would be, say, 6 to 8 times the annual recurring revenue of that particular entity. Sometimes I've seen 4, I've seen 6, I've seen 8. At the time, he was selling into a very, very powerful market. There was a great deal of demand for his product, so he was able to get a strong multiple. Now, not so much. Just you wait.
That's amazing. So as far as a practice valuation, what a doctor could do right now as they consider this, what would be their next steps to implement some of these strategies now so that they can start working on this and moving towards that by 2030?
So the end stage, the deliverable, is you want this panel of patients that deliver this revenue. So what you need to work on as a primary care doctor is to develop the expertise in order to be successful in this model. There's a lot to do there, but it absolutely can be done, because the payers, the ones that want to share the risk with you, the ones that need the revenue, they are looking for the people who do this well. and they are going to be willing to partner with you to an increasing extent the better that you do. And it's important to understand, under fee for service, I just know how much you bill Medicare. I don't know anything else. Under value-based care, I have an x-ray that's publicly available for every doctor. I can drill down on every doctor, see exactly how effective and efficient they are under value-based care. So I know exactly what I'm looking for, and I have my AI tool searching for you right now. So the better that you do, the better the opportunities, the better that you're going to do, and the better those opportunities. So you need to start that journey. The journey starts with systems and contracts. For most folks, Kevin, right now, it means affiliating with an ACO to get a shared savings contract with Medicare and then starting that journey. But it's important to start the journey now because the train has almost left the station. That is for primary care doctors. For specialists, there's actually two paths. One is to start looking at these programs that are specially specific that allow specialists to become primary care providers for certain classes of patients. These are patients who have end-stage severe chronic illnesses like congestive heart failure or COPD or chronic kidney disease. The idea is that the specialists that specialize in this are able to manage those patients appropriately. It's great. It's not a perfect system. They're still knocking out all the problems, but it's something that you should really consider because it will get you up the food chain so that you're actually the one that is getting paid for it. So that is one path that certain specialists should consider. The other path is much more difficult, but it is important for the specialist, especially the procedure or heavy specialist, to hear. Under this value-based care, the procedure heavy specialists become a center of cost. This payment model is the polar opposite of fee-for-service. Under fee-for-service, the procedural heavy specialties are centers of value because you can earn a lot more doing stuff than thinking in fee-for-service. That is flipped on the head under value-based care. So by 2030 and beyond, the procedure heavy specialists are going to be vendors to Walmart. And it's a terrible image for these folks who are skilled, but that is the path that you're heading. And who are the successful vendors to Walmart? They're not just the cheapest. It's the ones that offer the best combination of value and price. Right. And so you're going to have to start looking at what you offer and how much you charge. And if you have that, you have an advantage using those metrics, well, then Walmart is going to beat a path to your door. Everyone is going to want to know your secret. Doing that is going to require a level of analytics that most folks don't have. I'll give you a link to a tool that folks might want to investigate. But as far as looking at this, investing in your own practice, what you want people to buy from you when you're ready to sell is your expertise and these systems that are in place that can deliver these costly, necessary services in the most efficient way. And those practices that develop that, they will have enormous opportunities in this market. They'll be offered capitation rates. They'll be offered huge numbers of covered lives. But you got to get ahead of the game and demonstrate it. So really, it's two paths, primary care and specialists, both need to be taken because the market is coming to you. It's a huge opportunity.
Huge. So experience and systems, those are the big two things. So what would you say to physicians that are just engulfed in what they're doing and trying to find the time to get ready? What changes would they have to make to say, okay, how do they insert this into their already busy schedule to start looking at this?
And that is an excellent question. And what it boils down to is intention. It is a barrier that I deal with all the time with my clients. It's like I'm just trying to keep my head above water. It's like, it's fine, but the water is freezing and it's going to kill you. You are going to die. You have to do something different. So you have to figure out how to get above the water. And so that's really all it takes. It takes some attention to carve out some time, look at what the alternatives are, look at what the opportunities are out there, and at least do one thing to start that journey. Some folks have to get out of clinical medicine altogether for a year to learn what's going on. Some folks just have to start with that one contract. But this is coming, and it is not going to go away. And the people that understand that are the ones that are going to do the best. And the rest of us are really going to be SOL. We'll still be able to work, Kevin, but our labor rates will be a fraction of what they are now.
Right. I remember getting into this industry When I was 23 years old, and there was a phrase I remembered that said, the future belongs to those who prepare for it. It's no different today, is it? I mean, it's just, it's coming. You know it's coming. You see the writing on the wall. It's got the backing, and the faster you can adapt to something like this, I think the more peace of mind, the more focus, the more confidence you'll have in your practice as you move forward. And when it does come from time for that transition, like this gentleman you were talking about with this other doctor, for the multiples that you can sell your practice for, it's awesome.
The good news here is that currently, if you invest in your own systems under fee-for-service, the only gain that you're going to realize is an increase in your current income, which of course is taxed at a much higher rate. Because when you sell, we just talked about what the hospital is going to buy. They're not going to buy anything that you have. They just want you for a few years. Yeah. Under value-based care, when you create these systems, you're going to create capital assets that will be valued on the market. And it really will be advantageous to you to invest in yourself also.
Right. And all the things that go with it, building wealth inside and outside of your practice, which we talk about that all the time, but generational wealth, because that's where it's coming back to you, not anybody else. And that's huge. I know you've got a hard break, but what final thoughts do you have that you'd like to wrap this up? Any links, anything you could share with the doctors?
Well, you actually already touched on it, which is everybody is so busy. What's the one thing you can do to start out with? And I got something for you. And that is tonight, I want you to go home and I want you to rent the movie The Big Short. And for those of you who don't know what The Big Short is, it talks about a group of investors in 2006 who recognized that the banks lost track of the mortgage market and started shorting those financial tools. And everybody laughed at them because at that time the housing prices were skyrocketing and they were all just treated as a joke until they weren't. And so right now in 2025, we are where they were in 2006. And the reason is that the penetration of value-based care with all of its limitations on revenue is increasing now. It's almost a 50% overall. And it's going to reach a tipping point where things are going to start happening very quickly. And it may be next year when Trump 47 releases the next iteration of these value-based care. But whatever happens, it is coming. And it will happen very quickly. And the folks that you think that you're going to be competing against, the health systems and the huge payers, they're palaces of healing. They look very permanent, but they are built on sand. And the folks that start taking this advantage of these opportunities earlier are the ones that are going to do the best. So if that story doesn't motivate you about what's coming, I don't know what will. Carve up some time and take a step.
Yes, exactly. So is there a way that they could reach out to you with any further follow-up questions?
Well, I have a free value-based care success community where I post all the expertise I've shared for decades. It really is just for free. And I'm going to, in the show notes, I'll post a couple of tools that I will recommend for folks to take a look at. I will tell you, Kevin, I'm getting older. One day I'm going to need my own sets of doctors, and I really want some good ones out there, a system that works. So
yes,
I wish you all a great deal of luck.
Thank you so much. This has been Dr. Davis with us today. He's got a lot to say on the subject, a lot of experience behind what he's saying. I encourage every one of you to take this into account. It's your future. It's your money. It's your practice. It's your experience. It's your systems that you can take control over. And I encourage you to listen to this over and over again. Go watch that movie as well, because things do come true like that. And I remember how true it was. 2008 happened. And it happened fast. In 2030, here we come. Thank you so much, Dr. Davis. I appreciate your time with us. That's our podcast for today. And remember, if you're not working on your personal wealth, who is? Please share this podcast with your friends and colleagues, and make sure you subscribe, like, and share. Any questions about what you heard today, please send an email to kdsullivan@lpl.com. Physician Wealth Meds, wealth medicine for doctors.